Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Castellani, and today we're going to talk about the cost of misalignment. What happens? How do you actually feel when you're not in alignment with your purpose? So I'm going to walk you through my story, how things unfolded for me when I was out of alignment, when I was doing something that I wasn't really supposed to be doing anymore. And then I'm going to share with you the 3 stages of misalignment so that if you are feeling that way, first of all, I want you to know that you are not alone. This is so real. You're not alone. And also, I want to give you hope that this doesn't have to stay this way for so long. You can actually change things if you feel like it's time to change. So let's start by the beginning. I want to share with you a little bit of my story from a different perspective. I told my story several times, I think, in the podcast already, but I want to share my story from a different point of view. I want to share my story from the point of view of misalignment, when things weren't the way they are now, when things were difficult, when things were just weird. So there was a period when I finished university. I finished my bachelor's degree back in Buenos Aires. That was in 2013. And there was a period of time when I was so convinced that I wanted to be marketing director. I was so convinced that I wanted to have a corporate life. I saw myself as an executive woman. That was my dream. My dream was to become very, very important in the corporate world, in marketing, in the wine industry. And I think I borrowed all of these from media. When I grew up and I was a teenager, there were so many times when I saw movies and I would see these powerful women walking into the office dressed, in a very specific, powerful way. And I really saw myself as that. I wanted to be that kind of woman. I wanted to be successful according to the corporate world. So there was a period between 2013 and 2021 in which I was so convinced that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted to become a successful, quote unquote, successful businesswoman in the corporate world. And it was very clear in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. So I poured myself into that the way I usually do. When I want something, I really go after that thing. And my direction was very clear. I knew what I wanted. But I think deep down, I always felt in all of my jobs so stressed because someone had expectations over me, with the things that I was supposed to be doing and the kind of work that I was supposed to be delivering. And I think deep down, there was some self-doubt. Am I going to be able to satisfy this person's demands, whoever my boss was at that point? I was always stressed because I wasn't the one setting the deadlines. I was the one following the deadlines. There was a lot of self-doubt. Am I going to be able to make this? I've always been very perfectionist. So am I going to be able to do this perfectly? So there was always in all my different jobs an underlying current of stress. I was always very, very stressed. But I thought back then that that was my issue. I thought that it had to do with the fact that maybe I wasn't, the best that I could be at my job. And I thought that it had to do with my skills, to be honest. I thought my skills at the level that I want them to be. But then when I realized later, years after that, was that maybe it had nothing to do with my skills. Maybe the stress was coming from the fact that I was doing things that I didn't necessarily want to be doing. Maybe the stress was coming from misalignment, not from my skills. But between 2013 and 2021, I was very clear on what I wanted in my life. I wanted to become a marketing director in the wine industry. That was it. Crystal clear. I never had a doubt from the moment that I decided that I would do business, then I would do marketing, then I would do marketing in the wine industry. And I decided all of this in 2012. From that moment in which I made that decision, that was it. Like I focused myself for a decade in becoming a marketing director in the wine industry. That was it. I never had a doubt about my goal. It was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of evolving. It was just a matter of getting promotions. It was just a matter of changing from one company to the other. But I was going to become a marketing director. And then in 2021, things started to shift for me. I started to feel that something was off. I started to feel that something was missing. I started to feel that I wanted to do something else. I started to feel that maybe I didn't want to be a marketing director anymore. Maybe I wanted to do something better, different, bigger, that had more impact in the world. Maybe I wanted to do something that would help other people be happier, help other women be happier. So that's when things started to shift for me. Up until 2021, I was like a horse on a race, just going as fast as possible, as far as possible. And then in 2021, the horse was like, where am I going and why? Do I want to go somewhere else? Maybe I want to go see a little cascade that is around here. Maybe I don't want to be in this race anymore. So the horse stopped running and the horse started feeling, wondering, thinking, what do I actually want to do with my life? Where do I actually want to pour my energy? All of this stress, all of these emotions, all of these thoughts, all of this energy, what for? Why am I doing all of this? And these questions were very, very, very deep questions. So I tried everything under the sun, all the therapies that I knew to have a little bit more information about my own purpose. I tried coaching, I tried Akashic records, I did family constellations, I even did ayahuasca, which is so strong. I really, really, really wanted to get to know myself more and have more information about my life purpose. So in the end, what happened was that the coaching session gave me a lot of information because I went to a coaching session and I told the coach, I am so confused. I have so many ideas. I don't know what to do. I don't know where I should go. I have so many ideas. So she tells me, okay, good. Tell me all your ideas. And I start speaking and she lets me speak for 40 minutes. And after 40 minutes, she says, do you realize that you only have one idea? You don't have many ideas. You only have one idea, coaching women. Because I had been talking about that one thing for 40 and I was like, fuck. And that's when I realized that as long as I was in this space of paralysis, in this space of, I don't know what to do, I have so many options, I'm so lost, which did feel very real to me. I was very lost. But as long as I was in that space, feeling lost with so many ideas, I didn't have to actually take action, things, start a coaching certification, etc., etc. So that was mind-blowing for me. I did try family constellations. I didn't get information about everything that I was, supposed to be doing in this lifetime, but it did help me bring the podcast to life because I remember that the facilitator told me, okay, you can choose. I was like, okay, I want to know what's my life purpose. And she was like, okay, but we need to choose. Let's choose one thing that you want to know a little bit more about. And I was like, okay, my podcast. And then in that session, I think that podcast transformed and shifted from being an idea into being something real that actually could exist in the world. I got guidance on the kind of vocabulary that I wanted to use, the kind of person that the podcast was for. So family constellations didn't give me information about my whole purpose, but it did help me bring the podcast to life because up until that point, it was just an idea. A very good idea, but it was just an idea. And after that session, I was able to say, I felt it in my bones. I was like, okay, I'm actually going to do this. Then Akashic Records. Akashic Records is basically the study of your previous lives. So you can check what you've been in a previous life, who you've been in a previous life, what you learned on those lives, who you were, and bring that information into this life. So Akashic Records, it didn't give me necessarily the information on, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing in this life, but it did tell me some identities that I had in previous lives. And afterwards, when I did find my purpose, I was like, all of this makes sense. So it didn't give me information to make my decision, but when I made my decision, everything made sense. So according to the Akashic Records readings that I had, there were many things. But these are some of my previous lives. There was one life in which I was a teenager. I was around 15 years old and I was very, very, very religious. We could say kind of like Catholic religion. I was very religious and I would go to the church every day. And then in that life, something happened with a priest, and that priest abused me. And because of that situation in that life, I kind of stepped away from religion and spirituality altogether. And then apparently there were many lives in which I wasn't religious or spiritual or whatsoever. And then therefore I came into this life to reconnect with my spirituality and to allow other people to reconnect with their spirituality. Because of what happened in that life, when I kind of broke down with spirituality and religion because of what happened. And basically in this life, I came on earth to reconnect with my spirituality and to help other people reconnect with their spirituality. So that was one life. Another life that she mentioned was that I was a Black woman and I would guide circles of women, teaching them everything they needed to know about their bodies, their cycles. So really helping them be in contact with their own bodies. And when I decided that I wanted to coach women and I started thinking about these different lives that this person shared with me in an Akashic Records session, I was like, this makes so much sense. Like I've done this before. I've been leading groups of women before. And that's why I enjoy it so much, because I've been here before in a different way. Now it's online. Maybe before it was in person. Now I coach about life purpose and spirituality. And before I used to coach about the body and the cycle and the womb. But it's still very connected. It's still supporting women feel better, be the best version of themselves, be happier. And we can talk about different topics to get to that stage, but it's the same type of work, really. And then another life that she shared with me was that I was a man in that life who was organizing events in my town, in my village. So basically I would organize events. Imagine like a market, imagine like a Sunday market that I would organize. And that was the place where the whole village would meet and they would exchange things. So some families would be like, okay, here's my chicken. Can I have your potatoes? Here is my daughter. You want to marry my daughter with your son? All the different families were gathering there and they were all finding whatever they needed to thrive as families. And apparently in that lifetime, I was very loved by the village because this event that I was doing was really, really instrumental to all the different families. So I had a huge community of people who really loved me because I was very useful to them, to their lives, to their happiness. And I think this life, even though it's not exactly the same, I think this life also makes sense in the sense that I love to be in contact with people and I'm always thinking, okay, maybe this person wants that thing, this person has that thing, how can I connect them? So I'm always thinking in terms of bridges. This person is offering something, this person needs something, how can I put them in contact so they're both happy and thriving? And that can take many different forms and there's many different things that can put two people in contact, but I'm inside of my mind, I'm always thinking, okay, how can these two people be in contact so that they're both happy? And I think the fact of having a community that loves me because I'm useful for them, because I'm actually helping them, is really related to Blisstopia. I have a beautiful community of amazing women and amazing men who are part of the community. And I do feel very loved and I do feel a lot of gratitude because of the work that we've done together, because I'm a positive inspiration, I'm a positive influence in their lives, pushing them to go further, to go after their dreams, to get the things that they actually want to get. So This life is a little bit less related, but I think, anyways, there's still a connection. So that was 2021. I was lost. I tried everything under the sun. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things. I'm sure I tried astrology. I tried human design. I tried basically everything that I could find to get more information about my purpose. So that was 2021. I was still lost. Then in 2022, something clicked. So I was in Barcelona walking, and this idea of Blisstopia came to me. I was literally walking around Barcelona. I love Barcelona. It's a city that makes me feel so good. And I just had this download. It's going to be called Blisstopia. This is what Blisstopia means. It's a vision for the world. It sits between utopia and dystopia. All of this came to me walking in Barcelona in one go, the whole thing. And I'm going to coach people to help them be happy and live in Blisstopia, live blissful, be happy. And I'm going to have a podcast, which is going to be called Blisstopia Podcast. And I'm going to put meditations in there. I'm going to put reflections that help people get closer to Blisstopia. And I'm going to interview people who are living already in Blisstopia in some way, whether that's because they're happy, whether that's because they live beautiful spiritual lives, whether that's because they've learned something about abundance, whether that's because they're having an amazing impact in the world. The whole thing came to me in one walk in Barcelona. And I knew it was going to be big. I knew it was going to be huge. I knew it was going to be global. I knew it had to be in English because it was going to be global. I knew the whole thing in that walk in Barcelona in April 2022. And I was like, whoa, okay. So this is what I came here to do. This is why I came to this earth. Whoa. Because the vision was and still is huge. Now that I'm in the thing, it's very real, right? But when the vision came to me and I was still a lady in the marketing industry with a full-time job, and I had this whole vision, I was like, am I going crazy? This is so huge. Like, am I actually going to do all of this? It really felt huge, gigantic. So that was in April 2022. I did start the podcast in May 2022. And then in June 2022, I started doing my coaching certification for 1 year. So I started coaching, how to lead people through a coaching process, how to lead a session, how to basically walk a person through a process that can actually generate transformation in them. And that was so beautiful. So 2022, I started my coaching certification. 2023, I finished my coaching certification and I started having some clients. And when I got a very good number of clients that could actually, replace my salary, I was like, okay, it's time to do this. It's time to actually do this scary jump. It did feel like jumping. And then 2022 was really the year when I felt a lot of energy. I felt a lot of inspiration because this was the thing that I actually wanted to be doing. Finally, after being lost for over a year, finally I knew what was the thing that I actually wanted to do. And I felt that energy coming back to me, that fire in my belly coming back to me, that third chakra, that yellow chakra of the thing that I actually want to do. And then in 2023, when I was building my business, I still had my corporate job. I still had my full-time job as a marketing director, because eventually they did. I was a marketing manager and I decided in my mind that I actually wanted to leave that world and that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I really wanted to be fired, because that was literally the best thing that could happen to me. So then I could get fired. I could have, this unemployment in Spain, which is not much, but it's a nice base to have. And then not only I don't get fired, because even though I wasn't at my 100%, I was still very good at my job. So not only I don't get fired, but they actually promote me. they actually promoted me to becoming a marketing director. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. So I was literally, the universe is really testing me. Like, do you really, really want this? Do you really, really, really want to create your own business, change women's lives, have a lifestyle of freedom? Do you really want that? Or do you prefer to be a marketing director with a safe job and a 6-figure salary? And I was like, oh my God. So basically, that just made the decision a bit harder, but I was still very determined. I knew what I wanted and I didn't care the title that I had. I didn't care about the salary that they gave me. I didn't care about any of those things, parameters in the corporate world anymore. All I wanted was to be happy. And there was no way any corporate job could make me happy anymore because my priorities had shifted. My priorities were changing the world, making people happy, making money in the meantime. It wasn't giving my job to some company that had no values, that didn't care about sustainability, that didn't care that much about diversity, that was creating products that were harming people's health. Like, I didn't care about that anymore. And there was no job title, there was no salary that could compensate for my lack of motivation because there was no purpose, there was no impact in that job. So 2023 was the year in which I had my full-time job still, and I was building my business on the side. And 2023 was a very hard year, probably the hardest one of all of this story, because 2021, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was still kind of comfortable. Lost, but still a bit comfortable. 2022, I found out what I wanted to do and I felt so energized and inspired, and it was really nice. And 2023, I knew very well what I wanted to do. It wasn't my corporate job, but I was still in that corporate job because I wanted to transition in a way that made me feel safe. The biggest fear that I had was, am I going to be able to sustain myself financially if I do this? That was my biggest fear because I had a limiting belief that said, you can't make money from something that you love. You can't absolutely love your job and make lots of money. You can't have impact, change people's lives, and make lots of money. In my mind, it was either or. So I thought, am I going to be able to sustain myself financially? So I was very scared from a financial standpoint. Imagine leaving a 6-figure salary for who knows what, because I didn't know what was on the other side. It turns out it's even better, but I didn't know it back then. I didn't know that I could actually have impact and make money, impact and abundance all at the same time. I didn't know. All I knew up until that point was you get a job and that's how you make money. And you get better jobs and that's how you make better money. But I didn't know that I could actually create something that created money for me. It was like such a foreign concept. So my biggest fear was finances. Am I going to be able to survive if I do this? My nervous system was very, very nervous. I didn't feel safe doing this. So basically what I did, because we feel fear and we do it anyways, I said, okay, I'm going to save for 18 months of zero income. Let's imagine that I make 0 sales. I'm going to save 18 months and then I'm going to give it a try for 12 months. So if at the end of the year it doesn't work, I still have savings for 6 months to get a new job and get back into corporate life. Now we know that the story was very different. Now we know that that year that I gave myself turned out to be so successful, and that at the end of that year I was like, there is no way I'm coming back to a corporate job. There is no way I'm selling my time, I'm selling my happiness for some salary. No way. That's just not happening. Not in this life. But 2023 was hard because I was still in my corporate job and I didn't want it to be there. And I felt all of this creativity, all of this anger. And I was also so hungry, so thirsty to create more things for my business. And I couldn't because all of my time was tied up into this corporate job that I didn't want anymore. So I was furious that year. I was so busy because I was working from 9 to 6 every day from Monday to Friday. So the only moments in which I could actually work on my business were during the evening, during the weekends. So I remember closing one laptop at 6 p.m., opening the other laptop at 6:30, working until 11. So I was literally working from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day of the week, doing things on the weekends. It was so hard. It was so tough. It was so intense. I was literally so close, so close to burnout because I was working so much. I was working as a marketing director with a lot of responsibility. And at the same time, I was creating my business on the side. So it was so much for just one body, for just this woman over here. It was too much. And I was so hungry and frustrated. And every time any colleague would send me an email, I was like, what do you want? Of course, I wouldn't say that, but inside of my mind, I was like, what do you want? Why are you sending another email? Of course, they're going to send emails. They're just trying to move forward with all the different projects that we had going on. But I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take one call. I was like, I don't want to take this call. Anything on my to-do list, I didn't want to do any of that. Any email was such a burden because I didn't want it to do that anymore. I was very happy. I did it so gladly until 2021. And then I knew I wanted to do something else. Then I knew it was time to leave. So that was when I knew I had to leave. When I started getting pissed off for one email, for one phone call from one colleague that needed something. That's when I knew I had to leave because I couldn't be there anymore. Getting pissed off every day of my life, feeling like I was out of alignment. My soul, my heart wanted to do something, and then I was doing something else. So I was deeply, deeply angry, frustrated, sad, kind of in burnout. Until finally in September 2023, I quit my job. And then in October 2023, I remember, I think it was the 3rd of October, which was a Monday, I was like, wow, this is the day in which I'm finally working for Blisstopia. And the week after, I went to Menorca with my boyfriend and some of his friends, and we were working from Menorca, and I didn't have to ask anybody to be in Menorca. I could just be there. And I was like, wow, this is a new life. And now I've been in Argentina for 6 weeks working from there, but I didn't have to ask anybody. I take the flights that I want to take in the days, the hours that I want to take them, not because I need to get back to some work. I just do whatever I want to do and organize my time accordingly. So that's been happening since October 2023 that I went 100% full time on my business. And it was just one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life because it was a decision of alignment. Finally, aligning my actions with my soul's desires. My soul wanted to be doing this work that I'm doing right now. My soul chose this. And I just had to align the logistics of my life, the way I invest my time. I just had to align my finances. I had to align different things to be able to do what I'm doing now, to serve women, to make them happier, help them find their life purpose, help them accelerate their careers, help them be happy with whichever definition of happiness they have. Happiness can be so different for so many different women. But if I can support one woman being happier with her own definition of happiness, whatever that means for her, my days make sense. My life makes sense. So that's my story in a nutshell. And I do want to share something that I've been thinking about recently, which is the stages of misalignment, how I felt it, because I can clearly see when I was preparing for this podcast, I was like, there's a clear pattern here. And I think this applies not only to your life purpose, but I think this applies to any decision, whether that's quitting a job that you have right now, whether that's leaving a relationship for another relationship, whether that's changing your habits so that you feel better in your body. There's a clear pattern. There's 3 clear stages of misalignment. So stage number 1, which for me was 2021. So imagine when I was still in my corporate job, but so lost, so confused. For me, stage number 1 is when you're telling yourself there has to be something else. You're still in that thing, whether that's a job or relationship, you're still inside of that thing, but you're thinking there has to be something else. So the main emotions that are going to come up are doubt, paralysis by analysis, meaning that you're considering so many options that in the end you don't do anything. And you are in a certain place, whether that's a job, a relationship, a certain situation, and you know that it's not this. You know that this is not the job where you're going to stay forever. You know that this is not the relationship where you're going to stay forever, but you don't know what could actually be yet. So you're not happy with where you are, but you don't know where you want to be. So you're still very confused, paralyzed, very doubtful, and you're thinking there has to be something else. But you're still there. There's some discomfort, but you can still tolerate it. You can still be there because you don't know what it is that you want just yet. Stage number 2, which for me was 2022, that's when you get clear about what you want instead. You're in a place, you want something else, and you're thinking, I want to be somewhere else. You own your desire, whether that's being in another job, creating your own business, in another relationship, with another body, feeling completely different in your body. But you know what you want. Now you know what you want. In my case, this was finding out I want to create Blisstopia. This is what I want to be doing. So the main emotions that I felt and the main emotions in this stage number 2 are energy, hope, impatience, because you want to be there now. And you know what you want to do, but you need to be patient. It's not there just yet. You know what's on the other side of the bridge, but you're still on this side. So you're like, oh my God. But you feel energy, you feel hope. You're like, yes, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to create on the other side of the bridge. At least now on stage 2, you know what you want. And you want something else. You want different. Stage 3 of misalignment. So for me, it was 2023, which was when I was still in my corporate job. I was creating my business on the side, but I was still in my corporate job. That was the issue. And basically, there's a level of discomfort that you can't ignore anymore. What you're thinking to yourself is, I can't be here anymore. Every day that I'm still on this side of the bridge is a torture. I need to be on the other side of the bridge, but you're still on this side of the bridge. And that's very, very, very uncomfortable. You feel intense frustration, intense anger. You're stressed because you have a lot to do and a lot to do of things that you don't want to actually be doing. You can have burnout because the place where you are, it's not where you want to be. So there's no sense. It doesn't make sense for you to be there, but you're still there. So that can create burnout because you feel hopeless. So when you're on this stage 3, you're thinking, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Like I literally cannot take this anymore. And that's when you know that you have to leave that space, whatever that is, whether that's a job, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a certain unhealthy habit. I cannot do this anymore. Every day that I spend on this side of the bridge, it's another day that I'm dying inside, literally. It's another day that I feel dry on the inside. It's another day in my life, in my precious life, that I've wasted. So I do still think that have to go through all 3 stages. In the first stage, you're confused. You don't know what to do yet. So you can't really create change right there and then. In stage 2, you know what you want to do. But sometimes you need to plan for things. Sometimes you want to do things, in a more structured way that makes you feel safe. There's implications for this. Maybe there's implications in terms of your finances. Maybe there's implications on where are you going to live. Maybe there's different implications. So you need to prepare for a big change. And then stage 3, I think we need to go through that. It's really hard. It's really annoying. It's really uncomfortable. But I think that's what's going to set you on fire and be like, I need to change. I can't do this anymore. Fuck this. Like, I'm out of here. It gives you the strength to leave a job where you don't want to be anymore, to leave a relationship where you don't want to be anymore. Now, what I will suggest is that we need to try to make stage 3 as short as possible, because stage 3 is burning. The longer we stay on stage 3, the more difficult it's going to be for our bodies to tolerate that, for our nervous system to tolerate that. We might fall into stress, into burnout. There's a lot of suffering on stage 3. So what I would suggest is that we have to go through all 3 stages, because touching stage 3 is what is actually going to give you the power to say, I'm out of here. But let's try to make stage 3 as short as possible so that we're not in that suffering stage for too long. Because the longer we're there, the longer we're suffering, basically. But again, touching that part, touching that rock bottom of misalignment can actually give you the strength that you need to leave that job, that relationship, whatever you want to leave. Because again, I think these stages of misalignment, they do apply anytime we're out of alignment with a job, with a hobby, with a certain activity, with a relationship, with the place where we're living. You could apply these 3 stages of misalignment to different things in your life. So what I would invite you to think is, where are you right now? Are you on stage 1, still comfortable, but thinking there has to be something else in my life? Are you on stage 2, thinking I want something else and it's this thing, this is what I want? Or are you on stage 3, thinking this is what I want and I cannot take this anymore? The situation in which I've been up until now, I can't do this anymore. It has to change now. So I would invite you to think where you are, how you've been feeling, in which stage you feel like you are, and if you want to move forward, if you want to let go of this suffering and this discomfort and you're ready to move forward, to change things, then I would love to help you. I've been there. I know exactly how you feel. And I would love to help you move forward, create change in your life. So I created a program which is called Blisstopia Path to Purpose program. You will find the link in the show notes. And this is the program that I created that I literally wish had existed when I was so lost as a marketing director trying to find my purpose. And this is literally what I wish I would have found online to support me in that process. So this program lasts 4 months. We will have 8 sessions together, so every 2 weeks. The first month, you're going to dive. So you're going to get to know yourself at the deepest level. Who are you? Which are your values? What are your priorities in life? What do you actually want? On month number 2, we're going to dream. What does your dream life look like? What does the perfect day in your life look like? So we're going to really open up to the possibilities and dream big. On the 3rd month, we're going to design. So you're going to choose 1 option, 2 options that you really feel called to explore. And we're going to go deeper into those options. And you're going to design what that could look like for you, how your life could look if this was your reality. And then month number 4, we're going to do. So you're going to choose 1 idea that you love, that you feel called, and we're going to actually put that into place. You're going to actually start implementing things. So you're going to leave these 4 months with a very, very clear idea of what you want to do and which are the steps that you need to follow to get there. So you can go from feeling lost, confused, out of alignment into feeling clarity. You know what you want to do and you know how to do it. So there's clarity and certainty and energy and hope because you can and you will. So if you want to do that work, I would be so honored to support you on that process. All you need to do is check the show notes, apply for the program. We're going to have a quick discovery call to meet. First, you do the application. Then we're going to have a quick call to meet, understand if we are a good match, if I'm the right coach for you, if you're the right client for me, and if it's a match from both sides. Then we're going to be working together for 4 months and we're going to transform your life forever so that you can feel aligned, happy, blissful, abundant, in line with your purpose. So if you want to do this work with me, you know what you have to do. Just go and check the show notes, click on that link, apply. It's going to take you 3 minutes, and then we're going to meet for a discovery call. I will see you on the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.